Hello. Mic test, mic test. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I, Nur Munira binti Sulaiman, do not want to be a teacher. I wanted to be a lawyer. I left my science stream class for debating. But my father wants me to be a teacher. So after I finish my degree, I end up in a KPLI interview. In the interview, the interviewer asked me, why do you want to be the teacher? So I thought I was being smart by being brutally honest. I do not want to be a teacher, sir. This is my father's dream. But don't get me wrong. It's not because I look down on teaching profession. It is because I think this is the most difficult thing. And I am one person who has been given a responsibility. I have to do it right. With a smile, he told me my sentence. Congratulations. I can tell you now, you're selected. All right. So, sabotage failed. So, I want to tell you my 4 experiences. Phase 1, the challenges I went through. The first school I went to is SMK Tat Beng Trong. It's an outskirt school. When I was going to the school, I was crying inside my heart because it's all palm trees after palm trees after palm trees. I'm a Penang girl. I'm used to my movies and my malls. The only malls there is the Plaza Tol. Right? Because when I asked the clerk, is there a mall? She said, yeah, there's a plaza. Which plaza? Plaza Tol. Oh my God. So I was so scared. When I ended in the school, the first month I was told to teach pendidikan Islam. Second challenge, I'm an English major, English literature major. I told my boss, sir, how am I supposed to teach pendidikan Islam? Whatever is good is Islamic education, he told me. So being a good teacher, a young teacher, I taught pendidikan Islam. After 2 months, I got my first English class. I was so excited and I walked into the class. The first boy who looked at me and told me, saya benci bahasa penjajah. Allahu Akbar. I felt, okay, this is another challenge. But you know what? I'm not going to give up. So I started teaching them. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. I had to become creative. I taught nursery rhymes. I taught songs. And that's when they started liking. But of course, the greetings was, Assalamualaikum, Ustazah. It's okay. As an English teacher who's also teaching Islamic education, what I learned in that school was the fact that language is important. Doesn't make you non-Malaysian if you speak in English and you have to speak Malay, you have to be proud of it. MBM, MBI. Strengthen our national language, but also power, master the English language. Then I came to my second school, Jurassic SMK St. Xavier, all boys school. Why Jurassic Park? Because during recess time, it is literally rhinoceros running to the canteen. Right? They'll push you away. But this is the school that I fell in love with. When I walked into that school, the principal, Brother Paul, taught me this. Munira, our motto is touching hearts and changing lives. In this school, we talk about character building first, discipline, then academics. That's what he told me. So that was what I followed. In that school, I taught students choral speaking, debating, public speaking. Imagine choral speaking for boys. It was so difficult, but then I believed that we could do it. The boys were great. We went to nationals. I had the best conductor in 2012. Walter Tan. Until today, every time the picture comes up in the Facebook memory, he sends me a thank you message. So that was the second thing I learned, that co-curriculum is very important because it teaches students to become very strong, critically, intellectually, emotionally. They build bond, sisterhood, brotherhood. You see, like today, the human touch, very beautiful. Then came my third posting. By this time, I'm teaching Muet, Form 6. I'm teaching Muet in College Tingkatan 6 Haji Zainal Abidin. In this school, I had to deal with young adults, 18, 19-year-olds, where they're still finding their identity. So I was given the task to become the students' council teacher. So here I learned the importance of giving responsibility to students. Not doing everything for them, but making sure that they become the boss of themselves. So I started teaching them how to create events, how to manage events. This is where I started to realize that, Form 6 is very critical. This is one step before they go to university and to the real world. After that came my luck where I went to do my master's. So my master's was lucky and unlucky. It was during the COVID time, right? So I learned that during COVID, the students are affected the most. It's not the respiratory system. During COVID, the students were affected the most in their stomach. Why? Because when you ask the student, where are you? All of them are in the toilet, right? Right. So when after that master's, I was posted to my current school, SMJK Heng E. Right. When I heard, if you are from Penang, you know that is the center of traffic jam. Nobody wants to go there because it's jam and it's a big, huge school. When I was reposted to Heng E, I must be honest, I cried. I was so scared. It's not the Chinese school that I was scared of. It's not the big school that I was scared of. But there was this feeling that made me cry. So I called my student, Adeline, who did masters with me, and I told her, Adeline, I got Heng E. What do I do? What do I do? Then she told me, teacher, if anybody should go there, it should be you. I said, why me? You, teacher. You are the answer that they need. See, Allah's planning is so beautiful. When I walked into SMJK Heng E, I felt like the queen of China. Because everybody started nodding. Morning, good morning. You know, you felt that sense of discipline. They're very quiet. But when I went into the classroom, I started feeling lost. I came from Jurassic Park, right? So when I went to Heng E, it was very quiet. They don't talk, they don't respond. They have got good discipline, but they respect you too much that they do not want to take out their feelings. So I started experimenting. I'm not a typical teacher. I'm that the two roads diverge in the yellow woods. I took the less traveled one, girl. I started putting TikTok into my education class. I started using movies into the class, started putting songs into the class. You know what? The entertainment now is ruining our children. We are telling them use digital platform, but we do not let them use it correctly. So you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to introduce entertainment entertainment into the education system. I let my students do TikTok videos. I let them post, make them emphasize, make them the leaders of themselves. And my Chinese students who are very quiet before this starts to talk more. They have more confidence. They want to join competition. So ladies and gentlemen, from these 4 experiences, what is it that I want? What is it that we want? We want change. What change do we want? We want 5 changes. Change number 1. We need to make sure that our students understand as much as English is important, knowing the national language is also important. And it is okay to master both languages. It doesn't make you less Malay if you speak English and you cannot forget your national language. Let the Jalo Gemilang that we put on their uniform, not just there on the uniform, but it is instilled in their heart and proud of being Malaysian. Number 2, we need to revive the co-curriculum competitions. You see how today the students spoke so well, how they communicated, how they fight for their state, how they fight for their schools. We need to bring the students away from the handphones. Get them to go back to the field, run, jump, scream, fight, compete. Be brave enough to stand in front of the crowd. Co-curriculum education can make the students more intellectual. We need students to be intellectual in the artificial intelligence age, because I always tell my students, the artificial intelligence is very friendly. Hi, how are you? May I help you? Whereas our students is going like, yeah, So the artificial intelligence is becoming humans and our students are becoming robots. So we need to develop them through curriculum development. Number 3, what do we need to do? We need to make them leaders, empower them, give them more responsibility. It is enough with the teachers. Let the students do the speaking. Let the students become students influencers. No need edu-influencers. Don't let the teachers talk. We talk too much in the classroom. Let the students talk. Let them take charge. Let them be responsible of their own life. Give them the responsibility. Number 4, I'm running out of time. We need to make sure that our students are given love and support. And number 5, bring back moral education, strengthen religious education and civics education. Ladies and gentlemen, but why? But why? Because number 1, they are our children, our future generation. If you don't do this for them, who is going to do this? Then why us? Because we are the unsung heroes. Every morning we want to quit our job, but the next day we went back to that teaching job because this is part of our job. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 years back, I didn't want to be a teacher. But irony of fate, My own daughter, Nur Emilia Maisarah, chose early childhood education. She wants to be a teacher. When I asked her, why? Why, Amy? Because of you, Mommy. I want to be like you. And when she said that, the only person I could think of is my father, Sulaiman bin Samsudin, the one who made me a teacher. I am so proud to say I do not want to be a teacher before. I cannot stop being a teacher today. Ladies and gentlemen, in the fight of artificial intelligence and humans, we must make sure we humanize our students. Humans must win. Thank you very much.
We English teachers are expected to be full of fun. We English teachers are expected to be a source of entertainment for our students. But before that, let me share with everyone what I've been through for the last 26 years of my service as an English teacher. When I first reported to my first school, the principal greeted me in her room saying that, Cikgu Azman, you are tall, dark, and stop at that. I was waiting for the third word to arrive, but it never did. So, she continued, because of your physique, you are supposed to help me with something. So I was beaming with confidence and high expectations of how am I going to be employed by the principal in that particular school. It was SMK Datuk Penggawa Barat. She said, Azman, I needed you to help me with the trees and the landscapes. I was totally turned off. I told her, of course politely, Madam, I never helped my mother planted any single tree. I saw no reason I must change now. But I offered you myself to be an English teacher and a hockey coach so that the school will achieve something in the future. With her sour face, she relented. And then I was sent to do my first task. To cut the story short, when I was observing the school for that few years, the initial few years, I was of the observation that I was supposed to do something with the school. The school was a controlled entrance school because any student who wanted to enter the school must be excellent students. So, I found out that later on that the school was focusing too much on academics rather than providing them balance. So, I offered myself to the principal. Madam, I wanted to start a hockey team. Why? She asked. We are a school which is supposed to be focused on academic. I told her, one day the school will be similar to a fully residential school. But she declined my suggestion. And when I shared the same opinion, my opinion, to other teachers, they were of the same opinion as the principal. The school was not tailored to cater to excellent students in co-curricular. What's more, hockey. Right. But I never submitted to the request of the principal. I persisted and started the hockey team. And I started and I trained all the hockey teams, all the kids, too much. Obviously, one day, a few of them came crying. Sir, my hockey sticks, our hockey sticks were confiscated. By whom? I asked them. By the principal. Why? Because we were paying too much. It was somewhere in 2005. I went up to the principal and politely requested for the sticks to be returned. Alhamdulillah, they were returned to me. And then I kept training the students. And one day, in 2011, a news came. The new principal came or called me to his room and saying that, Azman, our school has been selected as Sekolah Kluster Kecemerlangan. And as a Sekolah Kluster Kecemerlangan, we need to have a co-curricular activity as the niche area for our school. And I was asking, and we have selected hockey. Wow, I told my principal, and I asked him, why are you choosing hockey? Because they said it was the only sports who were being actively developed by you. So, in 2011, as a Sekolah Kluster Kecemerlangan, the school had to support all hockey activities. And on that particular day, I was vindicated. So, I want to share with you, this is me, and that is the stick monument, right? So, this is a monument as the hockey team is selected as a niche area for the school. So what I want to share with everyone is that if we persist in our belief, one day, inshallah, we'll be rewarded. Right. I didn't stop there. I kept on training. I kept on training, and in 2013, the school was selected as Sekolah Berprestasi Tinggi, and again, hockey was chosen as the niche area for the school. Right. What has hockey got to do with education system? Just like what Puan Munira has said just now, we need balance in our education. With hockey, the students learn how to balance, how to juggle their daily life, academics, and co-curricular activities. So, I did not stop there. When I found out that there are more ways to develop my students, after some time, I switched to another passion of mine. An English teacher, I promoted HIP. Right? I kept on doing several programs, several activities under the HIP program. And one of the activities was selected to be in the first journal of the ELTC, which was activity on Facebook live sessions where students interviewed figures online, and then it was promoted and selected to be in this journal. So what I want to share with everyone today is that in order to become English teacher, in order to become an effective teacher, an inspirational teacher, we have to believe in our conviction of our mission. If we want to make education a balanced endeavor, we have to make sure that we have to uphold our belief even though we may be facing challenges. Right. These are my so-called grandkids. The parents were my students, and these were my grandkids. They brought their kids to the hockey field to celebrate my promotion to another school as for becoming a member of the administration, as the senior member of the administration. What I want to say is, after so many years of being actively promoting hockey, my reward is, this is one of my best rewards of having my grandkids, my hockey grandkids, so to speak. Right. This is my HIP program. Right. What I want to share with everyone is that now that I am pursuing HIP more intensively, I was also of the opinion that English is needed in schools, not because of the English language per se, but it is a very effective vehicle to develop students' potentials. And one of the items, or one of the innovations that I made in HIP is HIP Carnival. So this was done in my during my project Perantisan for my NPQEL. So this is what I want to promote, as an English teacher should not stop at just being English teacher within the four walls of the classroom, but also actively promote HIP program wherever you go. Oops, sorry. Right. This is Rachasi, from a scene from Rachasi. If anyone has seen or watched this movie, we realize that to find balance in education, we must always remember that whether the challenges coming our way tries us or challenges us from doing our passion in education, we must not allow those challenges to put a stop to our effort. In conclusion, let's continue in the belief that with our persistence in our education system, we can all contribute to something and making the education system in Malaysia even better. With that, I thank you.
Imagine two children. One wakes up in an air-conditioned bedroom with her bag properly packed by her maid with sufficient school supplies, and she is driven to her school in a comfortable car. And that school has good sound system, smart boards, LCD projectors, and stable internet connection in each and every classroom. While the other child wakes up in a wooden house on stilts, his parents tell him to hurry up, just because he has to walk 3 kilometers to his school. And that school is the only school available for him, the nearest one. And that particular school has no internet, relies solely on an old generator for electricity, and not even enough teachers to teach. So both of them are Malaysians. Both are the same age, but their chances in life, worlds apart. Assalamualaikum and a very good day. My name is Azharuddin. Today, I'd like to draw your attention to educational equity in Malaysia. Educational equity, the idea that every child deserves not the same, but the right kind of support to succeed. This is because in Malaysia, we are currently facing not only issues and challenges in our education system, we are also facing the education gap. We love to say education is a great social equalizer, and yet the numbers are telling a different story. According to Khazanah Research Institute, household income still strongly determines how far a child goes in school. B40 students are prone to drop out even before completing secondary education. When the COVID-19 hit in 2019-2020, the digital divide became painfully clear. In some communities, children were sharing only one smartphone with their other siblings just to attend online classes. Meanwhile, the top 20 group, the top 20%, the T20, they were hiring private tutors, joining Webex, Zoom, Google Meet classes with fiber optic internets via various gadgets. Don't get me wrong, I'm not putting the blame on the T20 group because of where they are. I'm just trying to describe the harsh reality of our education today and how these different different income categories impact our education system. Now, let's talk about the M40s, the so-called middle class. On paper, these people are not that poor to be eligible for government support and aid, yet they don't earn that much to be considered as T20. These people feel the squeeze of the fees, the transportation costs, the cost of living, you name it, that are increasingly expensive. They receive limited, close to nothing in subsidies, yet they are expected to keep up. And this is what I like to call the silent unfairness. While the B40 struggle for access, the T20 enjoy abundance, the M40, they are quietly left behind. Let me clarify something important. Equality means providing everyone with the same thing, the same support, the same aid, the same facility. While equity means providing each individual with what they need, what they require in order to maximize their potential in terms of education. If one child is short and another child is tall, providing both of them with the same chair wouldn't help them to see what's over the fence. It will just create a bias and unjust situation. And this is where equity plays a crucial role. Equity means adjusting a higher chair for the shorter child and a lower chair for the higher child. And ladies and gentlemen, this is how education should work. According to the recent 2025 study, it shows that, sorry, let me just go through. Yes, household income is still directly linked to the school completion rate. The lower the income, the higher the possibility or the risk of dropping out. Another mobility study showed that while 62% of Malaysians rise higher than their parents in terms of educations, the upward climb is stronger among the M40s and the T20s, while the B40s are still stuck at the bottom rung. Hence, this shows that education is working, but not equally to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, the consequences are enormous. When child from poor family backgrounds fail to finish schools, they will be pushed into low-paying jobs, often repeating the same cycle of poverty. Some may argue that there are children from poor family backgrounds that manage to break away from the poverty and do really well when they turn to adults. And some of them have done this without even finishing school. Yes, I agree. There are cases like that. But the big question is how many? How many of them manage to do this? Is it the majority or just a little few? We need to look at this from a larger perspective. When education becomes a privilege for the wealthy, our nation loses brilliant minds who could be excellent scientists, great leaders, or maybe innovators. We don't just lose potentials, we lose Malaysia's future. In my years of teaching, I've seen some students from rural schools who were motivated and they are eager to learn, but they didn't have enough school supplies. And I've also seen students from wealthy backgrounds which have available resources at their fingertips, but they are lack of hunger and motivation to push themselves forward. This unfairness is not just bias, it is wasteful. But the good news is change is taking place. The government has pledged 67 billion ringgit investment for education reform under the 13 Malaysia Plan. Preschools will soon be compulsory for every child in Malaysia, ensuring that our children will have a strong foundation in education. Digital initiatives like Pranti Siswa and Delima have been introduced to narrow the technology gap. And there's a big push for more TVET pathways, so not every child has to success through exams alone. However, policies are insufficient. We still need, number one, fairness in the support. Expand aid beyond the rigid income categories. We need to recognize the M40 struggles, not just the B40 needs. The sentiments spreading in the society is that being in the M40 group is like a big sin because they are denied to support and aid. Hence, based on this notion, it is better to stay in the B40 category then. No, this has to stop because it may jeopardize our nation development at large as people are getting more may get more comfortable to stay in the lowest income group due to the support and the aid. That is the main reason why I like to propose the shift from providing support and aid according to the rigid income categories to a fair and transparent mechanism. Number two, we need the right mindset and responsibility. Students, especially students coming from the B40 category, they need to seize the opportunities provided to them. Technology, for example, laptops, gadgets, these shouldn't be used to produce inappropriate contents on social media platforms, but these should be utilized for learning purposes. And number three, we need future-ready learning that emphasizes beyond rote memorization, critical thinking, creativity, digital literacy. These are all the real currency of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I began today with the story of two children, one poor, one rich. Let me end with a vision. Malaysia, where both of those children, regardless of where or in which family they were born, can walk into a conducive classroom that inspires them. Malaysia, where the size of the parent's paycheck no longer decides the size of one's dream. This is Malaysia that we must build. We narrow and close the education gap. We don't just lift individuals, we lift the entire nation. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. So today, let me begin my speech with a little bit of imagination. Imagine yourself walking into a classroom where silence feels heavier than words, where children look at you with blank stares. It is not because they don't care about you. It is because the language that you're speaking sounds like a foreign code to them. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the reality that hit me when I first became a new English teacher on an island called Pulau Berit in Sarawak. So, my students, most of them are rural kids. Majority of them are Melanau, followed by Iban, Bidayo, and Malay. Each of them bring their own cultures, their own struggles, and their own silent dreams. At first, when I became a teacher, I thought that learning English is about grammar, vocabulary, and just about grades. But eventually, I realized that it is much more than that. It is about nurturing minds. It is beyond textbook. So let me tell you a story about one of my kids. His name is Gabriel Along. So, for him, learning a language, especially English, is not a problem. The real challenge was his tantrums. So, the first time when he saw me, he would yell, he would scream, he would even hit me. But then, as days goes by, whenever I face his meltdowns, I felt very hopeless as a teacher. I was burned out. I even thought to myself, I don't even want to teach this kid in my classroom. Days after days, I actually realized something. Along is not an ordinary kid. He's a special one. He don't need stricter rules. What he needed is trust. So I convinced him that I am not his enemy. I am not a person that he should be scared of. I am his friend. So after a year that I put an effort for him, he actually listens to me. He called me Cikgu, Cikgu early in the morning. And recently, he even participated well in my lesson. He even tried a bit of writing. For some, it might seem small, but to me, it was a huge victory after I faced several episodes of him being tantrums. And from Along, before I change the story, from Along, I learned the value that not all lesson comes from textbook. Sometimes it can come from students that we thought very far to reach. Next is the story of a girl named Shifa, the shy girl, very introvert, always sit at the back of the classroom, rarely spoken, never volunteered. But there's something in her that I don't want to give up. So I convinced her to try storytelling. At first, she refused. She shook her head. She even avoided me at the school. But I tried to convince him for multiple times to try to try storytelling. I said, "Cubalah dulu Shifa, cubalah." And then she tried. So from being a shy girl, Shifa changed into an amazing storyteller. She spoke, she smiled, and for the first time ever, she said to me that, "Cikgu, orang kenal saya." She was seen by people around her for the first time ever. And from Shifa, I learned that the textbook that we have today, or years before that, it couldn't teach courage. But we, as educators, we could actually instill courage among the students. Then, let's move on to one of the challenges that I faced when I became a teacher in 2024, which is choral speaking. So the term choral speaking itself is completely a bizarre term to my students. For them, they don't even heard about this term ever in their life. Some of them would ask me, "Cikgu, apa tu choral speaking?" Half suspicious, half curious. But then, less than 2 weeks, this group of students who never even stood on a stage once can actually perform choral speaking performance with unity and confidence. And guess what? They won the second place in choral speaking competition. With their happy face, with the experience again, they learn the value of teamwork. They learn about pride. They eventually learn that their voice from an island in Pulau Bruit are actually mattered, as important as all the other voices that exist in this world. And next is the challenges that I can say is the biggest challenges that I had in this year, which is teaching my year 1 kids. Just imagine teaching a bunch of kids who barely even understand one single English word. For the first few weeks, when I came to their class, they were very passive. They only listen, they don't respond well. The only thing they could hear is their whispers. It's either in Melanau. I don't even understand Melanau, to be honest. But then, I introduced them with digital games when it comes to learning English. And they show their interest. Days by days, words by words, these students actually built something. From no English to some English. And today, some of them can actually read simple English texts. And some of them can actually ask questions in English and even give simple instructions in English. For example, they would ask me, "May I drink? May I draw?" Or they even ask to borrow some school item from their friends by saying, "Rubber please, ruler please." For some, that might seem small, but for me, it is huge. It was monumental. So, from all the stories and all the experience that I've gained throughout my 2.5 years of teaching, what a humble year. Language is not simply about grammar. Language, a textbook, are not simply about skills. And learning is not simply about grades. These are tools, yes, we use this in our lesson. But our real goal as educators are we want to shape these little beings into human that has values. We want to shape them to be a kind person, to be a person who always curious, and to be human that are unified with the values that I call A-class mind, which mean the A is not only for, it's not for the grade A. A is for attitude, A is for awareness, and A is for authenticity. So, just be honest, everyone. There is no specific rubric to measure sincerity. There is no special exam paper to measure kindness. There is no specific special item in this world that can measure values. But actually, these values that makes us as human. So when people ask me, "Cikgu, kita ngajar apa?" "Teacher, what do you really teach?" And then I would answer them and smiled, "Kami ngajar bahasa Inggeris. Sedikit nilai rasa sayang, sedikit rasa kehidupan, dan sedikit tata bahasa." It means that, sure, I teach English, but what do I really teach is the value of love, life, and a little bit of grammar at the side. Because we all know that grammar makes structure, but values makes character. Textbook give lesson, but experience give wisdom. Grades make transcript, but heart makes history. So, I would like to raise an invitation to everyone here to stop raising students. Let's start raising humans. Humans who can feel, humans who have values, humans that can stand tall with the value of sincerity, kindness, and courage. And before I ended my speech, I would like to end it in the language that most of my students have taught me. Kau dengar rasa berbesar hati, bak pubak ribuan terima kasih atas kesediaan menuai perkongsian kolau. It means that from the bottom of my heart, I would like to say thank you to everyone who are here, who are willing to listen to my sharing today. And I hope that for every lesson that we gain today from different speeches that we listen, I hope it can go beyond this stage and beyond this room. And I hope that life can give us more chances to meet each other again. And that, I would like to end my speech with, Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you familiar with the term neuroscience? For teachers and educators, knowledge on the field of neuroscience is going to change the way you perceive education. Well, here's the thought that changed mine. You cannot teach a mind that feels unsafe. For a very long time, we have believed that knowledge and feelings are two separate things. We believe that the brain is divided into two systems, one for emotion and the other for intellect. But science proves that the brain is one unified system where what we think and how we feel are inseparably woven together. Picture two trees. One tree that is tall branches dazzling and majestic, but with shallow roots. First storm hits and the tree is gone forever. Then there is another tree with roots that runs deep and strong, silent. Storms come and go, but the tree, it endures. I would like to compare the human brain to the parts of those trees. Branches, intellect, roots, emotions. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to agree that no tree can stand without roots. Similarly, emotions are mightier than intellect because in our brain, when emotions take control, it could anchor the entire system, controlling what and when we can and cannot learn. So, how did emotions get so powerful? Well, just when I was sitting there, I thought, oh, Renuka, you're going to do fine. But the moment I hit the stage, my hands are going on the auto tremble mode. Emotions are, in fact, very powerful. But to understand this from the perspective of neuroscience, I have to introduce you to little Miss Amygdala, a tiny part in our brain. Some call it as a security guard or maybe our personal unhired bouncers. But here I would like to address it as the smoke alarm. Always watching us, looking for a sign of fear, threat, or danger. And the moment it senses it, it goes off loud. But here's a funny thing. The amygdala cannot differentiate if you are being chased by a tiger or you just forgot or you just missed that 12 a.m. mark on your spouse's birthday. For the amygdala, stress is stress, danger is danger, non-negotiable. And when the alarms goes off blaring out loud, the brain floods with cortisol. Well, meet cortisol, our forever faithful stress hormones. So when that happens, the brain shuts down our thinking center and learning hub, which is the prefrontal cortex. When that happens, it hinders learning. That is why some students will just go blank out suddenly in the exam hall. And they'll have to reset themselves like PCs. Restart, wait, and then they on it again. It takes time to regulate back to normalcy. So, with that being said, we also have to remember that the brain is not about its panic button. There's also the other side of the brain, which is called the heavenly hippocampus, which is capable of creating memories. But that only occurs when the brain is in its Zen mode, calm and composed, happy, excited, and the hippocampus opens up and knowledge blossoms. So with all those points, just now you might be able to make sense by now why your students cannot remember those mathematical formulas. You have thought them countless number of times, but remembers the exact lyric of their favorite songs. You know that, gonna be golden, gonna be golden, because they were enjoying it. There was no pressure there. So, enough about power of emotions. Let's talk about a taboo subject when it comes to learning, which actually becomes a barrier to learning. Let's talk. No, I cannot say that out loud. It's a taboo word in education, you know. Students' ultimate enemy. Teachers dread them. Parents dread them. Schools, oh, they avoid them like a plague. Let's talk failure. We have treated failures like crimes. Researchers prove that fear of failure, has become one of the greatest barriers in learning. But neuroscience tells a different story. Failures and mistakes, in fact, activates the neuroplasticity of the brain. Our brains are so great. It is capable of learning, unlearning, and relearning things. It is made up of muscle that could expand and grow. So we should not make failure, turn it into fear that would trigger the amygdala and spoil learning. Let me tell you a story of the Chinese bamboo if you haven't heard of it. From the moment it is being planted, for 5 years, you don't see anything above the ground. All the work that happens is under the ground. It's building its roots so strong. But for those who look at it, it's barren. But on the 6th year, it will grow up to 90 feet of height in just 6 weeks' time. Similar to human growth, what might look like failure could just be an invisible growth. So we don't just, as teachers, teach content. We should also empower our pupils ways to try back to challenges, to not fear failures. Like, Miley Cyrus and a famous song, always gonna be another mountain, always gonna be another move. Sometimes it's an uphill battle, sometimes you're gonna have to lose. So it's okay to lose because we have to believe in the brain and its innate properties and abilities. With that being said, now I would like to sum up all those points into strategies that we can use in our classroom to help our pupil regulate their emotions and learn better. First, safety before success. Make sure that every child that walks into your classroom is getting a positive relationship, is making a positive relationship with you and among their peers. Because when positive relationships are created, it releases the happy hormones called oxytocins. And that will lower the cortisol. And of course, when they're happy, they learn better. Next, calm before content. Studies prove that when someone is on high stress, it affects their working memory capacity by 70%. So the next time you have long hours of lectures or classes, have some breathing exercises. Teach them some brain exercises or mindful breathing techniques so they could reset their brain and start again. And next one, last one, struggle before strength, which means challenge the brain. Give activities that challenges your students. New knowledge that challenges your brain. Because the brain needs to be challenged in order to be strengthened. So ladies and gentlemen, those were not just philosophies. Those are facts backed by neuroscience. With that in mind, I hope all of us here can teach wisely, nurture deeply, because those grades we used to fight about, they might soon be forgotten. Those trophies and medals might lose its luster. But if we could build roots that are deep and strong, we are building a generation that will withstand even the strongest of storms. Thank you.
Any of you ever dream of swimming with sharks? Yes? Have you swum with a shark? There was a time I heard a public speaking about a speaker who shared a remarkable story on him swimming with a shark. And that memory etched in my mind until today. So just 3 days ago, I had this wonderful opportunity to swim with the shark. Can we have a photo, please? Literally, it was just 3 days ago. And that was 2 hours before I received a message from Yvonne saying that I got selected for this event. So you can imagine my chaotic mind. So fast forward to this. In life, I experienced many fear, especially now a personal fear I am experiencing. So I thought, hey, I really wanted to sign up for this. I paid for this package to experience swimming with the shark. We drove for 4 hours from the Cebu city all the way to Islop in Philippines. It was 6 a.m. when we arrived. And guess what? The moment I got ready, I jumped off of the boat, I turned around. That shark was really coming my way. It is a whale shark. It is a gentle shark. We have many other tourists with us there. But at that moment, I was thinking, my goodness, the mouth is as big as a bonnet. I'm like so tiny, it could easily wallop me up. But guess what? I remember the guide said, do not touch the whale. And in that moment, just a flick second, I was knocked by another whale on my leg. The fin touched me. It was such a magical moment. At that moment, I just went through, swam along with him, and surprisingly, I had a sense of calmness in me. I took off my jacket so that I can go deeper with that because I know how to swim a little, so it's allowed. That evening, I went back and I felt like connecting this story to this topic today on we learn best in moments of enjoyment. That time in the sea, I could choose fear. I could be like my friends, quickly, no, bring me up, I don't want to be there. Many of them went up, but I chose to just be with the sharks and to overcome my fear. And instead of letting that fear conquer my mind, I say, it is safe. Let us swim along the tide. Let us enjoy the moment. It is safe. Ladies and gentlemen, like what our friend shared earlier on, when we are stressed, the cortisol, known as the stress hormones, will rise. And when there is cortisol in the rise, our mind will be blocked. We cannot remember scripts. I can't remember the scripts I memorized so hard earlier on. So I choose to reflect and to apply what I'm trying to preach now on the stage, which is to enjoy the moment. I only have this 9 minutes on the stage, and I choose to intentionally choose joy over fear. And that is what is known as the dopamine. If we are able to change our mindset and shift it to having fun, enjoying the moments we have in our life, it is the dopamine in action. And when the dopamine is on the rise, we have better memory, better focus, and better intention of what we are going to deliver to the audience. One of my favorite TED Talk speaker is Angela Duckworth. You heard about her speech on grit. So in her speech, she shared that success wasn't about IQ. Success wasn't about talent. In her research, she found that success was passion and perseverance. But I dive a little bit deeper. How do we have passion for things? Some of us, like myself, many of us, I believe here, we are passionate teachers. But we look around us, how many of our colleagues are truly passionate to be teachers? Think about it. Some came for the sake of the holidays, for the sake of the salary. But when it comes to passion, it has to be something that you are interested in. And how do we link it to having passion? It is through the word fascination. Like the moment when I was with the sharks, there is that sense of joy and amazement and curiosity, bewilderment. All those are linked to fascination. Recently, in Malaysia, we are shaken by a lot of sad news about the school bullying incident, about young graduates jumping off the schools, committing suicide due to depression. All this might somehow link to their sense of not being engaged in class maybe. They don't feel welcome. They have a sense of loss and they don't feel they belong to the society. So what I want to share with us is, maybe as educators, we can try our best to bring learning, fun, and enjoyment to the class. Because when there are fun engagement in the class, students will feel a sense of engagement. And let me just recall back a few incidents. So recently, I brought a group of students for a debating competition. They told me, teacher, I don't want to compete in debates. Yes, they lost. They have been trying so hard to break into the finals. But guess what? We have our seniors who passionately coach them, who passionately drill them at night. And the juniors, they tried so hard. It's because of their sense of interest and their enjoyment in learning. They told me, teacher, you know what? Last night, I sparred with Lodge International School. We sparred until 2 to 3 a.m. in the morning. Did I force them to debate? Did I force them to do research until 2 a.m. in the morning? The answer is no. They did all this out of their interest in the subject, out of their interest to win because they have sensed and tasted the joy of learning. And the joy, if they win, they will have the sense of satisfaction. And I also would like to link it a little deeper on how this sense of satisfaction and joy in learning will enable us to go a little bit deeper. I have this favorite psychologist, an American-Hungarian psychologist by the name of Mihail Schick. Have you read the book on flow, F-L-O-W? So this writer gave me this awakening that challenges must meet your excitement. Only then you will be able to be truly immersive in what you're experiencing. It was a little bit deep, but after I read that book, I really have this epiphany that I would like to share with everyone. So according to this psychologist, we can't be like giving too easy a task to our students. Why? Because if it's too easy, they don't have the sense of achievement. At the same time, we should not give too difficult a task for our students, for it will be too impossible for them to reach and achieve their target. And that is where they will feel like a failure. How come I can't do this, but my peers can do it? So as educators, we must be able to come in the middle, to give them something that is challenging above their norms, and also not too challenging until they cannot achieve that part. Earlier on this year, I have this one student from the remedial class. I was a form teacher, and she came to me and said, Miss Ho, I want to change the school at class because this math teacher is so strict. I can't do what she wanted me to do. I talked to the principal, and the principal just said, explain to the student, this is a great math teacher. Just bear with it, follow the formula, and you will get there. And I have a chat with the math teacher, and sure enough, with some personalized coaching and making the tough math a little bit simpler, this girl's favorite subject now is already mathematics. So ladies and gentlemen, when we come to educators, it is a good reminder for us that learning comes best in the moments of enjoyment. When we are happy, our dopamine will rise and we will enjoy what we learn, and what we learn will stay in our mind. So that's all, and enjoy the floor. Thank you, class. Thank you.
A very good morning to everyone here today. Before I begin, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever been to a place where there's no electricity, no water supply, no lights, no fan, not even a hospital? Have you? The reason I ask you this question is because I know this particular little girl who lived in such place. I would like to tell you a story about this little girl. She lived in a very small village far from the town, far from the city, where she has no light at home. She has nothing but just a school, a 10-minute walk from her house, and a handful of teachers who come to school every single day rain or shine. And then there was this little girl had this one particular teacher, a lady teacher, who cared for her, who helped her, who lent her the lanterns to study at night, who helped her to fill the application form for the scholarship. And that teacher changed her life. Days by days, this little girl moved through primary school, secondary school, and to international university. And now that little girl has become a teacher. She studied education and she returned home to that village. And now she is the teacher who's teaching in that village. She's the teacher who filled the application form for her students right now. And that teacher I'm talking about, at this very moment, is standing right in front of you. And that is me. I am that teacher which Cikgu Azharuddin said, the child B. I am that Melanau little girl who couldn't speak other language but Melanau. And that was me. And I'm here today. It's because of education. It's because of you, teachers, educators, who believed in me. Thank you to teachers. Delivering education to rural students, the transformative power of educators. This is my topic for today. The reason I chose this topic is because it feels so close to me. I have this personal feeling about this topic. Because that was me, the rural student. Let me introduce myself. My name is Mona Carmila binti Hamlet. I come from Kampung Penipah, Pulau Bruit, Daro, a faraway land where I believe most of you have never heard about. And I graduated from Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand. Who would have thought a village girl like me, who never spoke any other language but Melanau at home, to be here today in PICC Putrajaya. And that is because of education. Education changed my life. And education changed your life too. And today, I would like to share with you 4 ways that I think, that I believe, that will change our students' life. And I made them into an acronym for us to easy to memorize, which is BECRA. B stands for believe. E stands for emotional safety. C is for contextualized learning. And R is for resourcefulness. Let me share with you the first point, which is believe. We need to believe in our students. Whoever they are, whatever language they are speaking at home, we need to believe in them. How do we do that at school? One simple act. For example, just writing a note on their notebook. You are great. You can do this. Trust me, that will change the student's life because that happened to me. The teacher did that for me. And next one is emotional safety. Do you believe that pupils in rural schools, they love coming to school because of lamps, because of the fans, because they have water at school, where they do not have one at home? That was me. And we teachers, we are the one who should make the school a safe place for them. How? We can create a session in the morning where they can share their problems, share the emotions, anything they have with us, so that they will feel that school is a safe place for them. They will help them with their learning. And the next one is contextualized learning. Why do I call this contextualized learning? This is about making the learning meaningful to them. Pupils in rural school learn better when the lesson is about themselves, is surrounded by the things they know. For example, we can teach language through the village stories. We can teach science through the local plants they have in that village. All of this will help in their achievement. And the last one is resourcefulness. Do you believe that not all school has these working computers? They do not have this library, a good one. No, not all school have that. But we teachers, we can create that for our children. How do we do that? We can create a mini library in the classroom, ask for donations from NGOs, from any individuals. And we can also bring our laptop to school. Show them, how does a laptop work? How does the internet work? That way, trust me, it will change their life. All of these roles, believing in the students, preparing them a safe place for learning, being resourceful, and contextualizing the learning. All of this does not require money from us. They just require energy and time and courage. So why can't we do it? And when we are doing this in the classroom, we are not only teaching them the subjects, we are also preparing them for the future life. Imagine another little girl going into a classroom. If you make the things that my teacher did for me, how many lives will you change? They will multiply times by times. And when you change one little girl's life, this girl from that rural school will go back to the village, to their hometown, and become the same teacher. Imagine how many lives will that teacher, will that little girl change in the future. This little girl proved that education, when we deliver with heart, can be truly transformative. So teachers, keep showing up, keep believing, keep teaching like lives depend on it, because yes, they really do. Thank you.
Yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Faradina, and today I will going to present about the topics entitled The Hidden Strengths of Educators' Well-Being in Malaysia, Why Teachers Endure. Okay, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, education is not about merely a profession, but it is an architecture of our nation's future. Every morning, thousands and thousands of teachers comes into classroom carrying not only their textbook and lesson plan, but also they carry a very heavy responsibility on shaping human potential. So today, I would like to invite you to look after these topics. Ladies and gentlemen, if we see from this, okay, the percentage of problems affecting teachers' retirement during 2022, as we can see here, 17% of teachers are trying to do an early retirement because of health issues. And 67% of teachers opted retirement due to burnout. And another 7.7% of teachers trying to retire early due to so we call health issues. So in 2023, 6,394 teachers were approved for early retirement, about 1.49% of the entire teaching force. And for your information, during 2022, about 9,179 teachers have opted for early retirement. And this is the very big issues that we need to concern about. Percentage of problems affecting teachers in Sarawak also happens as well. For 50% of teachers are experiencing emotional exhaustion, while another 47% of teachers experience physical exhaustion. So also there are few problems regarding about the secondary teachers problem, secondary school teachers problem, which is the first one is fatigue. And then the second one is reduced accomplishment. And the third one is high level of emotional exhaustion. So, do you know, Malaysia's teacher well-being scored about 77.65 in Malaysia. So, this is how we are trying to explain, in which even though there's a lot of cases where teachers are trying to do an early retirement plan, but actually there are 5 main pillars that strengthen teachers' resilience. Okay, the first main pillar is about grieving. It's about responsibility. Okay, and then the second pillars. Okay, the second pillars is about the community, and the third one is about the third one is about the community. Second one is about the community, and the third one is about can we just proceed? Okay. Okay. The first one, the first main pillars is we call as. Okay, the first main pillars is about. I'm so sorry. Okay. All right, community. Okay, school is not just about an institution, but it is also a place where a community of support, such as colleagues, okay, colleagues and also friends that will give them support for teachers. And then the second one is actually about the. It's actually about the. It's actually about the. Okay, it's actually about the community and also about the responsibility, and the third one is okay. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
And information, or maybe it is to help our students prepare for examination, or perhaps it is to measure their ability to recite information word for word. Now, let's think about this. If this is everything that we know about education, we are missing something far greater. Because education is not only about information, but education is about hope. Hope that says your future is better than your past. Hope that says you are better than your mistakes. And hope that says keep going, because tomorrow is worth fighting for. Without hope, information is meaningless. But with hope, information becomes transformation. I remember a student I once taught. He was shy, timid, withdrawn, and always staying at the end of the class, staying behind all the time. His results, they were poor. And he told me, Mr. Felix, what's the point in doing all of this? I will never be good at it. At that moment, I realized he didn't need any more information because he has notebooks full of them. He has information from the subjects I taught. He has information from every other subject. What he really lacked was hope. And so I told him, you don't have to be perfect today, but you need to keep on trying because your tomorrow will be different. And I believe in your tomorrow. That small spark of hope changed him. Ever since that day, he participated much more actively in classroom activities. He raised up his hand to try. His results got better, but not because the subjects got easier. It's because he carried hope in his heart. Research in educational psychology confirms this by saying that hope is the biggest predictor of our students' success. Because if our students want to believe in knowledge, they have to first believe in themselves. And that belief, it begins with hope. Now, let us talk about failure. A student who fails without hope will say, oh no, I'm done. That's it for me. But the student with hope who fails will say, I think I'll just try again. Hope will not erase your failure, but hope transforms failure into fuel. Our students, they need to be motivated. And it is our duty as educators to give them hope. In the classroom, our students will stumble and fall. They will face setback. They will do mistakes. And they will get the wrong answers. And when they do, information alone will not be enough to leave them out. But hope will. Because hope whispers, this is not the end. This is the beginning of learning. And studies shows that hopeful individuals are more motivated, more innovative, and tend to have healthier lifestyle. But why is that? Now this is because hope is fuel. Hope is the fuel that keeps on going forward despite all the failures that they have met. Let's think of Thomas Edison, who famously said, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So what makes him or drives him to attempt for 10,001st time despite all the failures that he has faced in the past? It was definitely not information. It was hope. Now, ladies and gentlemen, our students depend a lot on us, and which is why our voices matter as a teacher. Now, just imagine this. If we as an educators, we shout and embrace our students in front of everyone, how would they feel? Hey, you! Yes, you! Come here! How many times should I tell you to do it like this? You're hopeless. Those words, they don't just correct a mistakes. those words, they crushes the spirit. Those words, they don't just stop an error. They stop the courage to keep on trying. Now, let us listen to it from a different voice. I see you're struggling, but it's okay. We can do it again together. You need to keep improving, and I believe in you. Those words, they also correct our mistakes, but they didn't take away their confidence, and it gives them the hope back. Those words, they didn't close the doors to courage. It opens them back. So, what is the true purpose of education? It is definitely not to fill our minds with facts and information. It is to fill our hearts with hope. Because hope gives meaning to learning. Because hope transforms our students into dreamers, into leaders, into citizens who will one day carry these characteristics into the future. Because hope transforms failure into resilience. And when our students realize this, they learn the most important things of their life, which is resilience. Exam, it may test your memory. But hope, it tests your humanity. And humanity is the exam that never ends. So let us teach with our knowledge. Let us teach with our skills. But above all, let us teach with our hope. Because this is the greatest gift that we can give our students. And because information fills the mind, but hope fills the future. Thank you.
Today, simply because I feel like an antique standing among all these young contestants today. And that brings me to my topic today, inclusivity. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. When John Lennon wrote that iconic lyrics to his song Imagine, he composed something of a beauty with the realization that it will come into fulfillment. And we, as educators, as leaders, and as teachers, are just that in Malaysia. We are composers. A very good evening, everyone. My topic today is something which is very close to my heart. From discourse to harmony, conducting inclusivity in the symphony of Malaysian orchestra. When we talk about Malaysian education, our education is a canvas, which I have here, which is actually painted. And our very instrument is the language that we use in our classroom. The art that we are creating is our education system. Right now, on the international stage, there is no more solo performance. It is a symphony, and that symphony concentrates on inclusivity. Global agendas are no longer just about grades and rankings. They are about creating a harmonious classroom, and in the English language classroom, a one-size-fits-all lesson plan and embracing the rich multilingual realities of our students. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking more than just grammar and vocabulary. We are talking about social justice in education. We are talking about the fact that language is a bridge and it is not a barrier. For every child from a rural village, every individual with dyslexia, and for anyone who has felt like an outsider in his or her classroom. I continue with this, that we have seen too many word salads these days in social media. We are not talking to a person, but we are talking at a person. This painting, a magnificent tapestry of different colors, shapes, and shades, shows that the vision that we have in our education system, that we bring our individuality to the canvas of our education. This is where our national vision, the Madani framework, becomes the artistic blueprint, with its core values of a direct guide as values such as sustainability, prosperity, innovation, respect, trust, and compassion. And I stress on compassion because that is how the language should be, the language which is inclusive. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break down the score note by note. M is for meaningful communication. How many of us go into the classroom with that vision that we want to create that meaningful communication with our children? When we empower our students to articulate, they bring in their thoughts to the classroom. They add the narratives to the canvas of education. A is for authentic expression. We have all been in a classroom that the only thing we do is to teach in the hope that they all pass their examination. Our educational language should reflect who our students are. They come from a diverse culture. They should bring their culture, their identity to paint the truth in the canvas of education. D is for deliberate dialogue. In a world that jumps to conclusion, an educated nation pauses to listen. In our classrooms, we not only use language to win arguments, but we need to use that to understand our students better. This is about blending the colors our students bring into the classroom. Did you know that we have 135 languages spoken in Malaysia? And this statistics comes from the Department of Statistics, of course. So imagine this, with such diverse population, we need to understand that each of them bring their imprint to our classroom. Bahasa Melayu is the national language. Use it as the language to unify the nation to greater heights. And the English language, do master the language because it is the international language. A is for accessible language. How accessible is our language? Language should not be the one to shut the doors on people. Rather, it should be able to open doors, especially for those who are less disadvantaged than us. Consider this, 1.2 Malaysian students have some form of special educational needs. Consider that. That's tens of thousands of students who require language to be taught in an inclusive way. People often don't speak about language because language is just that, language. But there is something beyond language. And as educators, as English language teachers, we need to realize that. Something that came into my mind is that if a melody can only be heard by a few, it is not a symphony, ladies and gentlemen. It is simply a private concert. N is for nurturing words. How often do we think about what we say in a class? Our words can be a hammer or a paintbrush to give that stroke of paint to the canvas of education. A nurturing educational system uses language to inspire, to uplift, to heal. And that is something we should consider when we think about using language in the classroom. A simple nurturing word of encouragement can lift a child or break a child into depression. And finally, I is for inclusive language. And this is where everything comes in. This is the grand finale. This is the amalgamation of colors, of the strokes, of the things that you say in the class. This painting shows that every child has a narrative, that every child carries a story, that every child has something unique in them, no matter what kind of disadvantaged background that they can come from. It is how we transform our mosaic of cultures into a unified, beautiful whole. The Economic Forum recently estimated that a diverse and inclusive workforce can increase productivity about 30%. That is a very interesting percentage. And we should take that into consideration, that only when we acknowledge the diversity in Malaysia, that only then we can contribute positively to the economy and to the social well-being of each individual. Ladies and gentlemen, the good news is the baton is in your hand. The paintbrush is in your hand. Every time you choose a meaningful word in your classroom, every time you teach with authenticity, every time you deliberate in a considerate dialogue, you are contributing to our national symphony. You are painting a Madani nation with all the colors that there should be. So, don't just teach, conduct. Conduct a symphony in your classrooms for the existence of the Madani nation. I am closing this talk of mine with the same way I began, by remembering the fact that we are all the part of the same song for our beautiful country. When we master the art of language in education, we are no longer just individuals. We are conductors of a nation where every voice is heard and where every person belongs. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Someday I hope you will join me and the world will live as one. Thank you, and thank you for imagining with me.
Mic test, mic test. Mr. Rosalie. Madam, nak naik tu kena bayar tak? That was a question that was asked by one of my Form 3 students back in 2018 when we stood inside KLCC for our first ever national level Bank Rakyat choral speaking competition. It was her first time seeing that glass lift in the middle of KLCC. 2018. Teenagers at the time went gaga over iPhone 11 Pro Max. The world was already at the fourth industrial revolution. People talk about IoT, Internet of Things, cloud-based technology, and yet a 15-year-old girl from Kedah had never seen a glass lift. Why? Because she came from a school in the middle of paddy fields, a school where most students were children of paddy farmers. And that very day, what brought her to that place, to that very glass lift? A choral speaking competition made possible through education. And at the day, I casually answered her, of course it's free.
But when we think about it, the lift that bring people upward should never be free. Because somewhere, someone has already paid for the price. Ladies and gentlemen, before I became a matriculation lecturer, before the glass lift, I was a teacher in an ordinary day school in the middle of Kampong. I started a choral speaking team with students who had never even heard of such competition, let alone participated in one. And yet, against all odds, they emerged not number one, not number three, number two, but as the champion of the district, defeating all the supposedly A-list schools in the district. And to celebrate that joyous moment, the principal offered to treat them to KFC. And on our way to that restaurant, I overheard some of them giggling and whispering of how happy they were because they get to taste KFC for the first time. 2018, KFC was for the first time, not because there was no KFC in town, but because simply their families couldn't afford one. And that day, it broke me. That day, KFC wasn't just a meal. It is a proof that they mattered. It shows me how education brings children opportunities that they could never otherwise have. And that was their first ride upward, made possible through their own sacrifices. While other kids spend the after-school hours playing games, riding motorcycle, they spent theirs practicing, memorizing, and perfecting every line. And it wasn't just about their sacrifice. When I stayed back with them for practice, someone else stayed back too. Someone else was working the long hours too. Someone who is remotely related to the education system. She was my children's nanny. I call her Mak Ngah. She didn't charge me the extra hours. She didn't charge me for the meals she prepared for my kids up until late at night. We are not related at all. People just call her Mak Ngah. And yet, she did what she did. She was not compelled to do so, but she did what she did. And that was her own way of paying for the ride. And it wasn't just Mak Ngah. I see it in others too. A matriculation student once came for registration with her father, not in a car, but on a motorcycle. Not because the college was nearby, but because it was all they could afford. She balanced her luggage on one side and her pail with the toiletries on another side, all on two wheels. And if anyone would have looked any closer, you would have seen her dream and ambition packed inside that very pail. And that image stayed with me forever. People say it stayed with me rent-free in my mind. Because it wasn't just about her ride. It was about her father's sacrifice that carried her forward. And it applies the same to others too. Maybe it's friends, neighbors, or even strangers. Somebody, somewhere, is also paying for the same ride. Ladies and gentlemen, let me return to that student who stood in awe of the glass lift. Cikgu, naik tu nak kena bayar tak? Do we have to pay for the ride? The answer now is yes.
Of course, because the ride is expensive. The cost is expensive. And the cost should not be borne by children alone. It should have been shared by parents, teachers, communities, and all of us. Educational psychology tells us the same thing too. Vygotsky, right? We've heard about Vygotsky, if you are in education field, reminds us that children rise highest when supported by the more knowledgeable others. And Bandura reminds us that children don't just listen. They watch, they see, they become what they see. And when they see adult, be responsible, stay accountable, or perhaps balance ambitions on motorcycle, it would have carried them forward. And they are also learning by example of what resilience and sacrifice truly mean. Ladies and gentlemen, every step that we take today, it brings us somewhere. Because somebody has already paid for the ride. So if you are where you are today, because somebody has paid for the ride for you. So the question isn't whether about the cost of the ride, but it's whether you are willing to pay for the ride for someone else. So ladies and gentlemen, I ask you today, for your success today, who's your unsung heroes? Anyone in mind? Any particular personal memories that you have? So think about it and be that person who pay it forward, carry the cost. Because when you do, when you carry the cost, when you pay it forward, then one day, when the child asks you, do we have to pay for a ride? That child might rise high enough to answer you, no, somebody has already paid for the ride. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how dreams are carried upward. Thank you, everyone.
Cucu nenek belajar baca? Safwan, sebelum pandai baca, Safwan kena pandai jadi jujur dulu. Sebab ramai orang boleh curi ilmu. Tapi orang tak boleh curi hati yang ikhlas. Ingat tu? Ladies and gentlemen, I was 6. The smell of Vicks Vapor Rub. The ticking sound of an old wall clock. I couldn't even spell curriculum. But my grandmother had taught me my very first lesson. Integrity before knowledge. And here's the truth. That wisdom isn't only for that little boy. It's for every classroom in Malaysia. The true curriculum isn't only printed, it is lived. We remember those people who taught us how to live, not just what to learn. That's why teachers do not just complete syllabi. we teach them memories. We chase rankings, we chase devices, we chase dashboards. Yes, all these things matter, but no child grows up remembering all this. They don't remember spreadsheets, they remember spirits. I've been thinking, we've been chasing so many things in our life. Grades, evidence, students. Students are chasing us just to grab our attention. Without visionary teachers, Malaysia Madani remains a poster. With visionary teachers, Madani becomes a practice. Daily, messy, and beautiful. So what do nation-building teachers actually teach? 3 things we remember long after the exam. Identity, innovation, and hope. In a multicultural, multilingual country, teachers build shared identity. A Sabahan English teacher once combined 3 folklores in his classroom: Kadazan Dusun, Chinese, and Malay, side by side. That room changed. English stopped being a barrier. It became a bridge. On that day, nobody asked who belonged. Because for the first time, everybody belonged. And maybe it is the truest lesson of identity. Not for proving where you belong, but knowing we belong together. Teachers do not just teach subject. Teachers build relevance. Policies can build schools. Only teachers can build innovators. In the vocational lab in Johor, robotics with recycled parts. Machines broke, students rebuilt, brief the community. Iteration become identity. That broken robots with recycled parts, that, ladies and gentlemen, that is Malaysia itself. Broken sometimes, rebuilt often, always learning to stand again. Robots failed, but students grew. Machines fell apart, but innovation held together. Innovation isn't just a subject. Innovation is a stance. After the pandemic, some students returned with silence in their eyes. Numbers didn't see it. Teachers see it. One of my teacher trainees once told her student in her classroom, "Your grade does not define you. Your growth does." One boy kept showing up day by day. 2 years later, he stood first in his class. And that that wasn't a miracle. That was pedagogy with hope. Hope isn't in the curriculum. But isn't it true? We remember the lesson the most, the lesson that gave us hope, not homework. And if we close our eyes tonight, we won't remember equations or essays, but we will remember that particular teacher who kept showing up and said to you, yes, you can. When teachers got hope, students risk trying again. We vow to teach our students identity with humility. We vow to teach innovation with responsibility. We vow to teach hope with persistence. And we vow not to let a single child's postcode decide their future. Think about a teacher who taught you courage. Got it? Now imagine that same teacher had given up on you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is why we cannot give up. Not on even one single child. A nation isn't built only with policies. Policies are written in ink. Teachers write in hearts. Ink dries, ink fades, but teachers' hearts beat, hearts carry. And what the hearts carry becomes the true curriculum of a nation. So, what is the true curriculum of Malaysia? Compassion, collaboration, conviction, authored by teachers, revised by communities, examined by time. And if our students remember anything from us, let it be this. A nation is only as strong as what the people choose to remember. My grandmother's lesson was very simple. Integrity before knowledge. Malaysia's true curriculum must be the same. Thank you.
Let me begin with a simple observation. We live in an era where digital technology are at our fingertips. Children can access the sum of human knowledge in seconds, but they struggle with basic communication skills. For example, like regulating their own emotions, or organizing their thoughts, or even to hold eye-to-eye conversations without glancing or looking at their own screens. Oh, sorry. So, this is the paradox of our era. We have unprecedented access to digital technology, but we are looking at moral decay among digital natives. Now, we are talking about students' behavior, students' well-being, where they are having reduced focus, shorter attention spans, weaker critical thinking, and slow erosion of resilience and common sense. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. My name is Afika, and today I would like to raise your attention to this particular topic. So, let's delve into digital natives. What is digital natives? Digital natives refers to individuals who are born, who are being brought up in digital technology worlds and are familiar with the usage of internet from an early age. What about moral decay? Moral decay refers to a decline in standard ethical standards and where behaviors once considered as unacceptable become normalized or overlooked. Now, I'm not saying this myself. Evidence and research shows that children under the age of 5 in Selangor exceed recommended screen times. On average, these toddlers can spend 3 hours per day on gadgets. Hours taken away from free play, social interaction, and exploration. And by adolescence, the problem has only intensified. A national survey shows that 37.1% of Malaysian teenagers exhibits signs of smartphones addiction. And this shows that excessive use of mobile phones are directly linked to lower academic performance and weaker social interaction. So, excessive screen time can cause dopamine overload, impair executive function, raise stress level, disrupts myelin development, and weaken impulse control, as well as perseverance and social emotional growth. In other words, when self-control is weak, development suffers. Now, so, what does it mean when we say that a generation can navigate through TikTok's algorithms at ease, but actually falters when asked to collaborate, when asked to participate and manage, to think critically and to manage their own frustration? If we continue to teach and focus only on academic contents, we risk producing students who are technically skilled but morally adrift. Now, let me show you the evidences from the real classroom. The first one, I have heard about a bright 12-year-old boy. On his tablet, he could solve problems and math equations. But when asked to explain his reasoning, he stared blankly. When the teachers keep asking him to talk, he becomes aggressive, tapped his pencil on the desk, and this has disrupted the whole class. So what does this show us? This shows us that screens actually tested and trained his speed, but not his patience. Now, second one. Students can chat endlessly with each other in abbreviations and slangs, but when in real situation, when they were handed back exam papers by their professors and lecturers, very few knew how to say thank you. All right? And this shows us that digital fluency amplified peer communication, but actually has eroded basic courtesy and gratitude. And social media here plays a vital role in the rise of cyberbullying, disrespect, and the normalization of unacceptable behaviors. Now, for the third case, I'm taking this from my own experience. I have many students who own active TikTok accounts. Well, in these TikTok accounts, they can showcase very cheerful behaviors, but actually, in reality, they are among the rudest of all. So, we have to acknowledge that students memorize and recall knowledge because access was scarce back in the day. But right now, access to educations are abundant. And with this abundance, it has fostered impatience. Many students now expect instant answers and quick results, and deep focus are actually eroding. So, how do we respond? First one, I believe we have to look at these three domains. Through social emotional learning, students must learn to manage their own emotions, practice empathy, and build resilience. These are not soft skills, but these are actually survival skills, so that they can regulate their anger, they can cope with failure, and empathize with each others, and this will make them to be far better prepared than life. Second one, through critical and ethical thinking. Our children are drowning in informations. There are many informations available, so we have to teach them how to learn, to question, to challenge, and to use the information ethically and responsibly. Ethics should not be confined to moral or religious classes, but needs to be woven into all disciplines of life. Now, third, through practical wisdom and common sense, too many graduates leave university with fluent information and knowledge about calculus, but many are unable to budget their own money or to manage time wisely or even to communicate in an interview. So, this shows us that everyday literacies are the foundation of independence, and without this, educations become detached from the lived reality. Now, I'm not saying this on my own. It's not my opinion. I have researchers that back this up. The first one, the World Economic Forum consistently identifies critical thinking, adaptability, and emotional intelligence as the top skills for the future. The OECD Education 2030 project highlights students' agency and the ability to act with purpose and grounded in value. And closer to home, we have our own Malaysian Education Blueprint, which promises holistic development, but yet this often collapses under exam pressure. Now, let me ask you, how many of you here were ever taught in school how to manage conflict, how to practice sympathy, and how to make ethical choices under pressure? For most of us, we have never been taught that. We learned that through harsh realities, through trial and errors, and difficulties. And yet, these are the very skills that helped us in each single day. Now, imagine if our children learn this early through design. Imagine a generation that not only aces exams, but also possesses emotional balance, ethical compass, and practical wisdoms to navigate our country. I believe it's time to radically imagine our education system by these three steps to teach core social emotional learning, not as add-on, but as the core subject, and also to integrate ethics into all subjects of in school. And lastly, to reskill our educators as teachers are the mentors and guides to humanize education in this digital world. Thank you.